By the end of today's episode, you'll know about social media in depth and how to use it to get more acting work. Welcome to the Actor's Career Compass, where we help aspiring screen actors find high-quality auditions, sign with great agents, and book major roles in legit productions. I'm your host, Martin Benson, and as something a bit different than what I've done in the past, except for my most recent episode, which is When is Social Media Necessary, I have decided to start talking more about social media. Okay, so I'm going to be covering it in upcoming episodes. Now, I don't talk about social media very often because, to be honest, many of my clients don't like it. But since I've also been asked by a lot of actors about it, I figure it would make sense to do some episodes on it. So today, I'm going to be covering some things, including how to optimize your social media profiles to highlight your acting brand and get good, positive attention from industry professionals. I'll be talking about what type of content, like clips, behind-the-scenes moments, or monologues, can help you stand out online. And I'll also talk about some helpful engagement strategies you can use to boost your reach, like interacting with casting directors and using relevant hashtags. Now, I remember a number of years ago, I wrote this article for casting networks talking about how social media is not necessary to build a successful acting career. In fact, I wound up turning that article into a podcast episode, which is episode number 56, Is Social Media Really Necessary? Tips for a Successful Film Acting Career. So if you want to listen to that article, you can go and find episode number 56 on this podcast. Otherwise, again, you can search it. Just type in Martin Benson Casting Networks, maybe social media, and it should pop up. Now, technically, social media is not necessary to build a successful acting career. It absolutely is not. That said, there is some truth to the idea that casting directors take actors with a strong social media following more seriously, or they consider them more closely and may be more likely to offer them roles, especially when it comes to bigger roles and bigger projects. So for that reason, I will be covering social media in some upcoming episodes. And today we're going to be talking about some strategies that you can use, some basic strategies that you can use to boost your acting career a bit with social media. The first thing that I recommend that you do when it comes to social media is you got to make sure that your profiles are optimized. Okay, so if a casting director is Googling your name, or they want to learn a bit more about you, again, especially when it comes to booking you for a bigger role, they're probably going to come across your social media profiles. So that's why I recommend that you take a little bit of time to sit down and look through your profiles, any that you have, and make sure that they are all up to date on the following. Okay, so number one is your profile picture, right? You want to use a professional headshot that ideally fits well with your acting brand. Okay, what character types can you play and what's your personality? Does this profile picture feel like you when we see it, or does it feel fake and not like that's not who you really are at all? Next, you want a bio on there. Now, I recommend that you do what I call a story-driven bio, where you write first person and you tell how much you love acting and why you got into it. You want it to be something that's interesting that people will actually want to read, but also it needs to be short. In many social media profiles, you can only write a couple of sentences, so obviously you're going to have to keep that in mind, but just put anything that kind of makes you stand out, that you feel is just, oh, that's interesting to read about you. You can also mention something that is credibility worthy, right? So for instance, if you have a really good credit or you've been in something that people would recognize. And then of course, if there's space, you should always include your website, your IMDb link, or your Actors Access link, or your reel. Now, on Instagram, you can put a highlight reel. right? And you can leave that at the top. So it is a good idea to have a simple highlight reel that has some clips of you acting, something that's potentially even got some behind the scenes moments, or you could even create something really nice that's got some testimonials from people that you've worked with. Basically, you want something that people can look at and right away they're like, oh, wow, this is really good. This person seems trustworthy and pretty good at what they do, right? Again, it's all about building credibility as quickly as possible for people who don't know you. The first things that they see, are they telling people that you're on point and you know what you're doing, or are they telling people, oh, this person doesn't have their stuff together, right? Finally, you do want to make sure that there's consistency between your profiles. So you want to use the same profile photo and general branding, whether that's colors or text or logo, font. Use the same thing across whatever social media platforms you have so that everything is recognizable and makes sense to people. You should obviously check to make sure that your social media profiles are publicly accessible if you want casting directors to be able to find them. Some people accidentally have their profiles set to private and they don't even realize it. Okay, so how do you grow your following, right? Because it's not the end all be all thing, but the more followers that you have, again, 5,000 sort of being the minimum that people will care about at all, usually, but 10,000 or more being where you can actually start to see some benefits in terms of that you can use that and say, hey, I have a decent social media following. If people click and see that you have like 13,000 followers, then they may be more likely to consider you for a bigger role in a production. Okay, so regular posting to your social media profiles is generally what's going to allow you to grow your social following over time, so get more followers. As I've said in a previous episode on social media, if you absolutely hate using social media, you don't need to post regularly as long as your profiles are up to date. Okay, so just make sure that your profiles are good. So if people do search you and they find your profiles, it doesn't look crazy, right? But if you really hate social media and don't want to be involved in it, then whatever, you don't have to post all the time. If you do like social media though, and you actively want to start working to increase your follower count, so again, a few years from now, you'll have those tens of thousands of followers and a higher chance at booking bigger roles because of it, then here are some things that you can consider posting. Number one is clips from past work that you've done, right? So you can post short clips from performances, some self-tapes or other projects, and just make sure that they are obviously in alignment with your general brand and the character types that you play. And of course, be sure that you have the right to post them. Number two is behind the scenes moments. So you could put photos of you working on set or prepping with other actors, and even photos of you recording self-tapes or rehearsing. Number three is different monologues. So you can practice monologues and record them, and then you can upload them onto social media. You can even upload some onto your website, right? But practicing to showcase your range with a range of different monologues. You can record yourself performing these monologues as different characters and different outfits, and these different emotional ranges like sad, angry, happy, whatever. And you would do them all on your professional self-tape setup, and then you can just post them onto your social profiles. Number four is industry insights, right? So you can share tips or lessons that you've learned, or even occasionally some inspirational messages that are related to acting. Now, remember that most of your followers are likely to be fans who want to follow you for the work you're doing, and they're not necessarily actors themselves. So just consider what is going to entertain or help or inspire people in general, not only information that's tailored to other actors. Finally, 5, you can celebrate your wins, right? So you can announce different bookings that you've gotten or callbacks or new projects that you're doing. Just make sure to focus on your gratitude and how excited you are to work on these projects, trying not to come off as like conceited, like, oh, just book this, right? In general, again, if you're trying to build up a following, it's a good idea to post around 2 or 3 times per week. This way you're active, but you're also not overwhelming yourself or your audience. It's much more important to be consistent in the long run than to post constantly over a very short period and then burn yourself out and then never post again. That's not going to help. Now, I am not currently a very strong expert on social media. So there are plenty of other places you can go to learn more, right? I recommend, obviously, that if you're interested in it, that you do some research. There's plenty of books. There's lots of information out there, and you can learn how to build up a social media profile following if it's something that you're interested in. So that would be my definite strategy, is don't just go and post things and do some generic stuff. If you want to be successful, buy a book or two and actually read it and then follow the advice in it. You're going to be way better off in the long run by spending a little bit of money right now and making sure that you do it right. I will be doing more research in the future and putting together more in-depth podcast episodes on really specific things. But as of now, again, I normally don't talk much about social media, but I felt it was necessary to talk about it a little bit because the actors who are listening to this, you have to know about all the opportunities for you. So again, in general, if you actively want to build your following, having an updated profile photo, posting regularly, those are the sort of bare minimum things. But those two things alone are not going to lead to much of an increase in followers. You also need to be very strategic with what you post and also how you post it. This is essentially engagement. Okay, so the magic is going to happen when you are engaging with people, right? You're posting things that are engaging. So, for example, following casting directors and other industry professionals, and then you can like, comment on, and share their posts. That will help you get noticed more by those casting professionals, and then they may be more likely to actually book you when you're auditioning for them. So another thing that you can do to grow your following is to use relevant hashtags. So there's some generic ones like actor life, self-tape challenge, casting call, or on set. Hashtags are going to help your posts show up for more people, and that can lead to new followers. That said, though, I want you to think beyond just the acting industry. Remember what I said earlier, you're not looking to just get actors who follow you. You want people who like entertainment and want to follow you because they like you and seeing you in different projects, right? That's the way to get a lot of followers. If you're just getting actors following you, they're all trying to build their own social profiles. So it's kind of like you're competing with your own audience, which doesn't make sense. When I say thinking beyond the acting industry, let's say if you play a doctor, for example, right? And the scene is about some particular illness or situation someone's going through, you could find hashtags that are related to that topic. Now, this is an advanced technique, but it can help you reach a much broader audience. Just always make sure to be respectful, obviously. You don't want to be trying to promote some scene you did at the expense for people who are dying from some illness, right? Okay, that would just be messed up. Just kind of think about it. How can you get in front of audiences that are not just actors? Now, you can also, another way to build your following is, again, engaging with other people so you can share things that people in your audience would be interested in. So let's just say that your audience was actors or you wanted to connect with other actors, then yes, you can engage with other actors and you can share things like casting announcements or other acting opportunities that you hear about, right? But what are other things that you can share that will help you get more followers who are not actors? I recommend spending about 5 to 15 minutes per day on social media where you interact with other people and you post comments. Okay, you shouldn't do much more than that because it can definitely become overwhelming very easily. As I mentioned earlier in this episode, I am going to be doing more social media related podcasts in the future where I dive deeper onto specific strategies. Today's episode was just kind of an overview of some of the basics so that you can start growing your profile and growing your following a bit. Remember that most casting directors are generally not going to take social media into account when booking unless you have at bare minimum 5,000, but more likely 10,000 or more followers. So I don't recommend that you stress out too much about it, and go listen to my previous episode, which I just did, episode number 122, where I talk about when social media actually becomes necessary. So thanks for listening. If you want to dive deeper on networking and connecting with higher up people in the industry, I actually recommend checking out a different podcast I did called How to Network with Casting Directors to Unlock Major Auditions. That is episode number 73. You're going to learn all about the process of networking with or without using social media. Again, that's episode number 73, How to Network with Casting Directors to Unlock Major Auditions, and it's on the Actors Career Compass. Lastly, if you're interested in working with me one-on-one, you can learn more about how that works on my website at martinbenson.com. That's BENTSEN, martinbenson.com. You can sign up for the waitlist there, and you also get some of my top tips to book more acting work. Coaching spots usually open up every few months, and I'll keep you up to date. Thanks so much, and I'll see you soon.